Thank you for the very interesting presentation, Mr. Marius. We will now move to our first panel discussion, From Policy to Capital, Mongolia's Role in the Global Energy Transition. This session will be chaired by Mr. Josh Satterfield, Chief Strategy Officer at Latitude Energy, who brings nearly 2 decades of experience at the intersection of government, business, politics, and media. Joining him on the panel are Mr. Dorjkhand Togmid, Deputy Prime Minister of Mongolia, as well as Mr. Marius. We invite all our panelists to the stage.
Well, first of all, thank you for Capital Markets Mongolia for organizing this, for StoneX, and for Golemt Bank for co-hosting as well and helping to organize this. And then thank you to our panelists for joining. First of all, I kind of wanted to ask questions about the current stage of things or status of things in Mongolia. We've heard a lot about the abundant resources that are available in Mongolia. My understanding is that estimates place GDP growth in Mongolia at 5 to 5.7% for 2026. Just since the last conference we had here in New York, what changes have you seen in terms of appetite? What changes have been made in terms of policy to meet kind of the growing demand there?
We've been to New York last year, and then we have introduced the potential, the energy sector in Mongolia. And now what is going on is that a lot of development has been happened. And the number one, yes, economy was good. In the region, Mongolia economy has been keeping very high economic growth at the rate of around 6 to 7%, So this is going on. And the secondly, as Zola mentioned, that a lot of investors have been visiting us and also show the interest to invest in energy sector Mongolia. And also the IFIs like the EBRD, European Investment Bank, so far they have committed to fund $2 billion directly to the energy sector in Mongolia. And so this is going on. And the most importantly, the bigger size of skilled investors already in Mongolia. And last year, in September, Aqua Power from Saudi Arabia, they visited Mongolia and confirmed that they will start investing 10 gigawatts the energy together with a $5 billion the green hydrogen project, And then through this project, at least 50,000 the green job will be created. And so that is the deal is going on. But unfortunately today, because of the crisis in the Middle East, the war is going on, and the countries like Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and Bahrain, they're a little bit busy over there, and we don't understand it. But also we have agreed with the government of Emirates as well as the Bahrain to implement the sizable project in Mongolia, not only energy sector, but also the mining areas as well. And this deal actually actively going on, and we are expecting to have a good result so far. So this is going on, and now you see this, the war is going on because of this energy crisis. All 100 years, all the war has been happening because of the energy. And so today, Mongolia is positioning in a good way, is because you see the increase of the oil price actually giving a lot of impacts to all the entire countries, except those export the oil, So those countries are very few. But most of the countries are at this stage to invest in the energy sector and have to diversify the source of the energy. And as we see clearly that China, for example, is observing this shock in a very smooth way, because they have invested more on clean energy, green energy, and 40% of the energy source in China is now renewables, So in this regard, yes, even though they import oil from the Middle East, but still they do have a good reserve at the same time. Also, they keep they had a good investment in green energy. So while how Mongolia will be positioned, for example, is because we do have a lot of resources, as we mentioned, like 3.2 trillion, the terawatt resource we have, very cheap, very reliable. And the countries like China, East Asia, like Japan and Korea do have a lot of demand, and still they do have a lot of interest going on. So the bigger size of the project is very feasible to be implemented in the medium and long run. So this is so far the development is going on. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. This next question is for Marius. I was just wondering, what are some of the current misconceptions that people might see regarding investments and opportunities in projects in Mongolia?
I think Mongolia and Central Asia in general is a highly attractive opportunity for global investors. Anywhere there is capital that should be deployed, is looking to be deployed, especially in economies that are growing very fast. The Deputy Prime Minister mentioned the GDP growth in Mongolia. It's growing far faster compared to other countries around the world. So of course, investors are paying attention and taking notice of that fast economic growth. What can accelerate even further is the investment projects that some of them we've seen on the slides that were presented earlier. But the issue is how do you mobilize that capital? How do you attract it? How do you make sure that some of the institutional money that is in New York, that is in London, that is in Europe, finds its way into Mongolia? And this is why I think structures like this that offer diversified access could work very well. We've seen the opportunities for investments in the hydropower sector. Hydropower is such a valuable asset, right? And then if you look at countries in the European Union, if you look at countries around the world, it's very difficult for governments to take decisions to move forward with hydropower projects, no matter how critical they are to the energy transition, to the energy demand, to securing independence for local consumption, to ensure that there is no supply disruption. In Europe, it's almost impossible to do that. I've seen it in Romania. We own the largest hydropower plant or hydropower company in the country, which we IPO'd in 2023, was the third largest IPO in the world that year. But they're not able to grow. So the only way that they can create value is by looking at other renewables. Whereas in Mongolia, in Uzbekistan as well, the governments are taking bold decisions. They understand that they have to think 15, 20 years ahead. What is the energy demand going to look like? And they want to reduce their dependence on imports. So I think you asked about what could be a misconception from investors. I don't think there is a misconception. I think there is no understanding of what the opportunities are in these countries, and especially in Mongolia. So events like this go a very long way to promoting awareness of what is available. I mean, what investor wouldn't want to participate in building a hydropower plant in Mongolia? Because once you've built that dam, you have the water. This is for the next 100 years, the company or that investment is going to be generating cash flow. So I'm very pleased to see this type of investment opportunities in the country. Now is about finding a way to structure and to find that capital for completing these investments.
Thank you. And then a follow-up on that for the minister. What is being done kind of raise awareness for these opportunities right now?
Well, Well, we do have the resources, but at the same time also we have a shortage of the energy, right? As we do import like 25% of the energy from both Russia and China this time. So this is a little funny. But what kind of opportunities we do have is that, yes, we do have the 2 gigawatts demand for next 2 to 3 years for locally. And so we are announcing very nice the auctions and offering the PPA, with the good condition in the longer run, and very open. And we are doing it together with some IFIs, including EBRD, etc., IFC, and also government is very much committed to organize it as well. So in order to meet the demand for next 2 years, we are actually very open for everyone who actually have interest in this sector, including the hydropower as well. So, well, hydropower project, for example, it is very crucially important, and yes, it will generate the cash flow in the longer run, but it will take some time to build the dam, etc. While the government of Mongolia is very much now concerning about the build the battery storage, because last year we had some curtailment, and this year we believe that because Mongolia is very cold, in the winter time, and so the investment what we are looking for is to park more the battery storage, So this is quite open, and it will be open auctions for everyone for this year. And for the rest, like upcoming years, yes, we are still offering the bigger size of investment, like we offered to Mazda and Aquapower and Envision, and there was last year we also have signed MOU with UPC here. They are planning to build like a 2.4 gigawatt, the solar plus the wind farm, together with the battery storage, So that is going on, and they got the land, and they made all the feasibility studies, and they are ready to invest, So this is now going on. So what kind of the bigger size of project, what we are looking for is green hydrogen project plus the data centers. So in US, for example, everyone is more focused on funding the data centers, while Mongolia does have really, really good advantage, because price here is like 16 to 17 cents per kilowatt, while we are offering the data center equity investors like less than 6 cents. And Mongolia is freezing cold, Even today, we are having snow in Mongolia. And we do have like 8 months freezing cold after 12 months. So that actually decreased the cooling down price of data centers. At the same time, we are the most peaceful country and country of democracy, as you know. We are in between Russia and China, and everything is ruled by law. And also, yes, we call the China and the Russia, they are our bodyguards, because there is no war, no way. And also, we don't have a tsunami because we are landlocked country, and also we don't have a very rare occasion of the earthquake. So this is really the best destination for data centers, cheaper energy, reliable, and we do have both the renewable resource, and also we have resource underground, the fossil fuel, like the coal, thermal coal. And at the same time also we do have a deposit of uranium that we have signed with the French company Orano on the utilization of the uranium agreement, So that's why there are a lot of potentials that we are offering. And the government of Mongolia is very much committed. If you remember last year I was here, the commitment has been made, still going on. That's why the substantial changes happening, especially in the energy sector. We have increased the tariff And this year we are going to increase the tariff as well. And even though this is a politically sensitive, but still we are very much committed, and that is really going on. So yes, Mongolia has been seen as the country of the minings, but we believe now that Mongolia will be the country of the energy, So this is a lot of opportunities there, and we are quite open for any kind of business in Mongolia. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned your neighbors, Russia and China, a little bit. And I was wondering, how do you position yourselves, and I guess this is a question for both of you, how would you position Mongolia, on a global scale, selling resources or selling energy to other nations as an alternative to those countries?
Well, in terms of the energy, the Russia and Mongolia are competitors. We compete in the market like China or like Korea or Japan. And we actually sell coke and coal to China, while Russia has, and we do sell copper, iron ore, and zinc, etc. So we share the market. So the one big market, 4 of us, but the advantage of Mongolia is like we are very close to the Chinese market, That's a good thing. It's only 100, 200 kilometers away from the border of the China. All our mining deposits are there. And also the source of the solars and the wind, is very much located in nearby the border. That actually gives some advantage. At the same time, also, if you look at the supply side of the equipment of solars and wind, battery storage, basically it is in China. So that Uzbekistan, for example, is doing a good job, and they got a lot of investment in the energy sector, and price of energy is very low. It's like less than 3 cents per kilowatt. But those investors are already active in Mongolia, and they made this study, and they said, okay, the price in Mongolia could be even less. It could be around 2 cents, the cost. Why? Because we are just next to this supply side. And in terms of logistics and transportation, Mongolia would be very feasible, much cheaper. And we are closer to this market, And also, as I mentioned, that in Korea, in Japan, they do have a big demand of the clean energy. If you look at the numbers, like the price of energy in China is like 6 to 7 cents. This is pretty much a subsidized price. While in Korea, it's like 18 cents per kilowatt. In Japan, it's 26 cents. While Mongolia could offer less than like 3 cents or 4 cents, So we used to have the corridor is called like Asian Supergrid. The initiative has been done by the SoftBank in Japan and supported by the government of Japan, So that the initiative has been happened like 10 years ago, and they decided to invest in Mongolia because they needed the reliable source of the energy, because by that time, this Fukushima nuclear power the plant has been fall down because of the earthquake and tsunami, and they've been looking for very reliable and the cheaper source, and then it was in Mongolia, So that kind of this corridor initiative is still possible, and I had a meeting with the Japanese authorities and previous government, and they are very much welcoming this idea. At the same time, also we are talking with the Korean authorities as well. So because of the technology is changing a lot, AI is creating a lot of demand of this clean energy, So those Asia and East Asia they do have a really good demand of, and while they need a clean and cheaper and reliable energy source, we have this. So this is the current position of Mongolia in the energy sector. Thank you.
What I would add is, just to echo what the Deputy Prime Minister mentioned, Mongolia may be landlocked, but it is a sea of democracy in the context that was mentioned between Russia and China, and could become a catalyst for energy exports, because even though it's a traditional fossil fuel producer, it does have, on the one hand, the materials, the rare earth minerals, which are absolutely critical for electrification, for the continued energy transition on the one hand, and then given its vast lands, it's a prime contender to attract renewable investments, whether it's solar, whether it's wind. That is going to help change the way that the energy markets in that region work. Because yes, it is a little bit more expensive than Uzbekistan, as was mentioned, but Uzbekistan is unusually cheap, and through the energy liberalization, prices will increase in the region. So the competition will increase quite a bit, but Mongolia can become an exporter once it reaches the level of independence as well, because demand historically will go up very, very quickly. And I think what the last few years, and especially the last couple of months, have taught us is the need to depend on internal resources rather than external, and that's across the wide variety of fields.
Thank you. You mentioned Mongolia's status as a landlocked country. To what extent does that, I guess, impact your ability to trade or export different goods? And I guess what's being done to kind of, expand your ability to trade in spite of being a landlocked country? For either one of you, I guess, yeah.
I cannot comment too much. I mean, I don't think that being landlocked, or like in the case of Uzbekistan, being double landlocked, it doesn't really change the ability to trade. You just have to find the proper commercial routes and to integrate yourselves in that routes. But I think Mongolia is already there.
Well, the Mongolia is landlocked, but the good thing is we do have a very good market just next to us. It's the second biggest market, China, and then number 11, the market on the north, it's Russia, right? So what we have done so far is, like, we have agreed with the Chinese authority to have more the connectivity projects and corridors. So far, we have one railway, the corridor from Russia to China. It's been like for 80 years. And what we have agreed is to make it at least a 5. And the agreement has been done between two authorities, like the government of Mongolia and government of China. So this connectivity project is going on. And more, the port will be opened. And as a result, I think the export of minings and minerals will be much easier and cheaper to be exported to China, So this is going on. As for the energy project, yes, there are 3 types of the export that we are talking. And number 1 is, yes, we can build a high voltage of transmission line from Mongolia to China. And number 2 is a green hydrogen project is very feasible. And the Japanese and Koreans and Chinese are very much interested to produce the green hydrogen in Mongolia, and it could be turned into the ammonia. And as you see in Africa and Kenya and some countries, ammonia is making a revolution in the agriculture sector, right? So we can produce the ammonia in a very cheap price, and it could be used for the energy source, and as well as in the agriculture sector, So those kind of projects now are very feasible. We see it is very good for export. It could be off-grid, and a lot of demand is there. So number 3 is we see the data centers. And data centers, there is no boundaries. And there is no the challenge of the landlockedness. So what we see is that today, for example, in the US, a lot of crypto data centers are turned into AI data centers, right? So a lot of the US companies have a strong interest investing in Mongolia, using this Mongolian cheaper and reliable energy, both the renewables as well as the thermal coal, you know? So this is going on, and also there are more chance to park these AI data centers in the future as long as it's transmitting this data through cable or through the air, you know. So we are also working very closely with the Starlink, even though the cost is a little higher today, but on the way it will be more feasible. And so in this regard, yes, the exporting energy would be much feasible, and also there would be no difficulties of the landlocked.
Thank you. Makes perfect sense. I think I have one time for one more question. And so I'm just going to ask, and I guess this is a question for both of you as well, but what do you see as kind of the single biggest factor that takes a project in Mongolia from, you know, something that's interesting or something that has a lot of potential to something that's actually bankable?
From my perspective, it is political will and political support, right? You cannot make a transformational or implement a transformational project, and this is not just the case for Mongolia, it's the case for any country. Anything that's big, that's transformational, that puts the country on the map can only happen with political will and political support.
Well, I would like to comment on this. When we came here last year, yes, I have committed, like, we have changed our constitution and we got this coalition government. So our policy will be stable, you know. But so far, the government has been changed. And a lot of people are questioning, hey, where is this political stability? Where is it, you know? But I say, yes, we are here. We are the country of democracy, very strong democracy. But the good thing is that always there are like 3 political parties are established the coalition government, you know. And I was here last year. I was talking about this energy. I made a commitment in front of all the partners. Still, I am here because I'm actually leader of one of the political party, you know. And still, I am in charge of this energy reform. And also my the Minister of Energy has been appointed from the bloc, which means it is much easier and to implement the sizable projects in the energy sector. And so this is going on. So we do have very strong commitment and will be, and we believe that the next 10, 20 years will be very much committed to implement the bigger size of project. And both the ruling party and today we have this Green Party and Democrats, you know, everyone is very much committed to implement bigger size of project and to offer very solid and good the investment environment, especially in the energy sector, you know. So this is, I think I can guarantee again. And next year, I think I'll be here again to talk about how much fund we have raised and what you need to do and what we can offer. So today, for example, tomorrow we are going to join this Bloomberg New Energy Financing Forum and gonna meet with some the funds and banks like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and we had also a very good meeting here last Friday with the Carlyle, you know? So we are talking about to establish kind of equity fund in Mongolia. So this talk is getting very serious. So a lot of the IFIS fund is on the table, but what we need is now the equity investment for the energy sector at the same time also mining projects. So that is going on. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, should we wrap up? Thank you so much to our panelists. Really appreciate your time and comments.